Pow Comic Hour with your hosts, Andrew Garner
and Chris Ramos.
This is our extraordinary, special, spectacular episode. This is Wonder Woman, Dead Earth. The story is by Daniel Warren Johnson, colored by Mike Spencer. And this is a fresh new story that just came out last year, so we thought we'd share it with you guys.
Yeah, we just read it, and it was actually exciting enough to say, you know what, let's just get this out to the community, because it was released in December of 2020. So, I mean,
the hardcover edition.
Yeah, yes. The hardcover edition, the actual single issues.
Were like throughout 2020.
Like later half, right?
Yeah.
So Wonder Woman Dead Earth is pretty amazing, and we just thought you'd be excited to hear about it. The tricky part right now is going to not have any spoilers in this episode. So yes. We're trying not
we're
to.
Doing our best, and we're gonna truck on. And this story is especially incredible because you don't have to know anything going into it.
Yeah, it doesn't connect with a current storyline in DC Comics right now. So it's not like a continuation of anything that's been happening in the last year. It's independent of their continuity, but it's also part of DC's Black Label line.
Formerly known as Vertigo.
Yes. And Black Label is just sort of like an adult version of their regular stories, and they've done away with the comics code long ago, so it's not like it's comics code unfriendly. It's just these are serious stories that they wanted to write and
take the handlebars off.
Yeah, and just kind of say, you know what, we're going to write this outside of the regular world a little bit.
That's fair.
So that said, this takes place in the future.
Yes.
Far in the future. Read the back.
Yes. So on the back, it says it all. Wonder Woman's mission was to save man's world from itself. She failed.
Hundreds of years in the future is when this picks up.
And this collects the whole story of Wonder Woman. So I believe it's a 4-issue miniseries. And it's all contained. They sold it really good as a self-contained story. So we recommend you pick it up that way.
So what really was kind of fun about this is that Andrew and I were just, we have our own collections that we're building and growing for years now. And we thought, you know what, let's just kind of do a blind buy a little bit just based on hype, you know, and just based on what we've heard. So we both bought this book at the same time. Read it and thought, well, that was great.
Like, we wanted something to tie in because Wonder Woman was coming out at the end of 2020. But Wonder Woman is a difficult character to get into, I guess, because her story and origins are all over the place and it's being told remixed, and it's kind of hard to pick a single story that, you know, that you can, it's new reader friendly and we can jump in.
I mean, she's 80 years old. She's just,
she's like she's old.
Yeah. You never say the age. She's just as old as Superman and Batman. And through the years, DC has tried to reinvent her, bring out her origin in different ways that reflect society or just the time frame. She's different than Batman because she's a goddess. So they said, okay, so in some continuity, they say she is made from the sands of the gods. In some other continuity, they say, no, she's just like overpowered. And in some other continuity, well, she's kind of half man. Half
demigod.
Yeah. So this story doesn't really give the reader a chance to like pick up on the origins of Wonder Woman a little bit. There's some flashbacks, but
it's not, you don't have to know too much going into it, and that's also why. And it's also a brand new like 2020 story. Yeah. People are still discovering it. The artist Daniel Warren Johnson, he is one of the new
up and coming boys.
Up and coming boy, yes. And so we're always, you know, looking for who's that next standout artist or storyteller that is going to bring the comics to life.
So if you look up Daniel Warren Johnson, like I did, the way that he approaches each page, I think is, what did you just say it was before? It was not grungy, but it's
edgy.
It's edgy. Okay, so Andrew likes it because it's got some death metal feel to it. But,
Yep.
So I think that it's really.
I'm trying to think. Like with Mike Spencer's art, or Daniel Warren Johnson's art,
and Mike Spencer's coloring.
Man, they were just jamming really good, and they melded so well. It's hard to picture with one without the other.
I guess some artists are always trying to be like anatomically correct, or like realize that that face looks way out of out of proportion, or that's not an expression that looks human or whatever. Daniel Warren Johnson has somehow taken each page and made it its own flowing, crazy, like ink bleeds and scratches, and you could just tell he's like really into the pages, and
it's very free flowing as well.
Yeah,
it's not constrained.
Really helps that it moves the story along. And I told Andrew, I said, when you read it, because I had a chance to read it before he did, I said, listen, you're going to just start reading and you can't put it down, but you have to, because you're going to burn through it in just one day. And the story needs to like sort of sit with you for a little bit.
Yeah. It's very emotional as well, emotionally driven, as if you take from the perspective of Diana, and it's like, whoa, there's so much going on, but so good. It's quick, it's good paced and everything. It's like, whoa.
I mean, we have to kind of like, if I were, okay, so I'll give you a synopsis of the story. It's my turn to tell the story. So it takes place in the future. You get the idea that it's future. It's sort of like Mad Max, sort of like something terrible happened. Yeah, like something's wrong with the world, right? These people are surviving. There's monsters chasing them, and you don't know why right away. Monsters kind of chase these kids into an underground lair, and they land on a capsule, and Wonder Woman jumps out and she's here. So now you start piecing together, like, where is she? I'm not going to tell you. How did she get there? I'm not going to tell you. But, once they're talking with her, you get the idea that this is many, many years in the future, like hundreds of years in the future. And as she looks out on the countryside, it's just desolated and there's just nothing.
Beautiful splash page.
Yeah. And so Wonder Woman is, of course, always been connected to mankind. She's always been connected to being a hero, saving the world, the typical like archetype for any superhero or
trying to redeem humanity.
Yeah.
Like show the best parts of it.
Show them like you don't have to wage war against yourself and you don't have to tear the world apart. Well, here they've done both.
Right.
So they're like, okay, so that's why the story kind of picks up as Wonder Woman failed. Like her job was to come to humanity, show us our greatest strengths, and she failed.
And that's not a real big theme for Wonder Woman, because she's always trying to do the right thing. She's always good. And she's always, trying to put her best foot forward, trying to head prevail. The medium between Superman and Batman, I always like to put it.
Yeah. Well, and you never want like, so comics have put together this end of days story before. This is not a
mind-blowing concept.
Yeah, the basic concept for this is not like it's never been done before. They've done that with the death of a lot of characters. Like, what would they be doing in their end of days? And so for her, it's interesting that she sort of woke up in the future, and it already was like the end of days. So she does connect with the humanity that is there. And she says, "Don't worry, like I'm a hero. Right. I know Themyscira." And it works
because she's immortal. She's already immortal, so she doesn't age like as normal people do.
And she's way stronger than any of the normal humans, so she's easily able to just say like, "Follow me. I've got powers." Kind of thing.
I liked how they explained her powers in this story as well.
Yeah, the other part, the other part of the story is you kind of root for her, but then you also realize like you just feel like there's no hope, sort of.
Yeah,
and you I don't know, you just feel like, what's the point? And she's the one that's carrying you through the story, saying there is hope.
Yep.
right? Like that's the cool part of it. But I've got to just mention the artwork again and the lettering.
Yes, I think the lettering sometimes, like with certain stories, the lettering either gets lost or it's just plain simple.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like it's almost just a computerized font that they just fill in
Yeah.
where they can. And I don't want to dummy down letterers because it's
Yep.
an entire profession. But
Yeah.
Russ Wooten,
Yep.
he has worked himself into the actual art of the page. And a lot of times they don't do this sort of like cliche onomatopoeia where you just see like bam and you see clang and you see chop.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do they do all the action sounds, or is that part of the artist?
Well, I would think that the artist has like a basic layout,
Sure.
and then the letterer has to go in and sort of make that a font, because some of this, like even on, well, there's no page numbers, but even on this page,
Yeah.
they've got a couple pages where chop, clang, and bam are all part of like the background effect, and like you get the idea. And was there like her whip or something? Every time her whip went out, it would literally say like whip, and it would and it was like, yeah, here it is, whip, and it's like a shape, and it's part of the whip. And
I mean, that's what you hear in your head when,
Yeah.
like, Wonder Woman throws her weapon.
Yeah, and like here, like it wraps around the hand, snap. It's
Yeah.
like it's becoming part of the page. It's becoming part of the artwork. I think for some people, that might snap them out of that world. It might snap them out of like being there in the action. They might feel like, oh, I just got brought back into like this 2D world of text.
Yes.
But I think for this,
It fits the story. So
it fits because it's so edgy, and it's so like grungy, and it's so much part of the story that
Right.
you see it as action. Like there's some scenes where she lets loose.
Yes.
That's another big part of it. Like I've seen some people say this is like the most badass Wonder Woman has been in a long time.
Probably because I mean, she doesn't hold back. She doesn't need to hold back, really. But that's also another contention part of the story. But we'll let you find that out. But I do love the world he built for her and how she interacts. That she's not dependent really on any other superheroes.
Oh yeah, yeah. And part of the story is, of course, she's finding her. It's not like she's finding her powers, but she's finding like, what can I do? So of course she does look for the typical. She looks for Superman and she looks for Batman. It's just like, where
guidance,
are my
yeah.
people?
Mhm.
Where the Trinity? How did they fail? And I'm still here. And you do find out, I'm not going to tell you what happens, but you do find out a series of flashbacks and then a few of the in continuity parts. But
Yeah.
there's just, I would say like every 10 pages, there's some sort of crazy twist. I mean, It's
Yes.
just awesome that
Oh yeah. Well, he's always
constantly
thinking. He's always
surprised.
thinking and says, "Oh, how can I make this interesting but still make sense and flow?" And I appreciate that so much.
So in the comic book world, these were released as separate issues. And I
Yep.
kind of wish that I read them as separate issues, but kind of not, because when they are released once a month, you are forced to like
Think about it.
pause
Yeah.
and wait.
Right.
When you have it all collected, it is fun to read it all the way through, but at the same time, it's like you
Let it
have to
breathe.
stop yourself because you're like, I'm burning through this whole
So
book.
an
right away.
interesting part when this came out, it was oversized. The Black Label books, or these particular Black Label books they've been putting out, they have been oversized format.
The single issues.
Yes, the single issues
cool.
were oversized. They were about the same size as the hardcover that we have in front of us. They were just like thinner, and there was an okay like glossy one. But it was cool to see that DC's kind of trying out the new format with readers,
Mm-hmm.
and it works. But you also have to have the combination of the right story, the right writer, like the standout writer. Otherwise, it kind of falls to the wayside.
Yeah.
Or it's like, and the price is more as well. You're probably paying like $8 versus like $3 or $4 So to introduce new concepts and things like that, it takes the right team to do it.
Yeah, and as far as the artwork goes, you have to. I think if you just flip through it, it's unlike typical comic book artwork.
Yes.
So I mean, it's out of the mainstream.
Like almost an indie book might
Yeah.
have some of the
Yeah,
style.
and when you're reading it though, it is part of the story. Like the actual
Yes.
art is part of the story, and he does a great job of like blurring when characters are running or like when they're
Or something's
attacking.
getting chopped off.
Yeah, or something's getting chopped.
Like,
It's like it blurs the sword, and there are moments where people's arms don't bend that way, or where people's facial features look like they're just
dulled and
losing their minds.
right.
But it definitely brought me in, and I'm glad that this was a blind buy. I didn't know anything about the story beforehand.
I knew the bare minimum of just the few reviews, but also I knew that it was self-contained and we didn't have to know anything going into it.
What was his other work?
Murder Falcon. That was
Falcon.
the other big book of 2019 was Murder Falcon. I think he has another book called The Extremist. And again, it's kind of like the same art, but he does a few different other wacky concepts as well. So I definitely, if you like what you after reading this, you like what he's doing, I would definitely check out his other work.
Yeah, I mean, it's enough for me to start checking out his other work. And the other part of it too is, this is sort of the new wave of artists in the comic industry, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I always kind of look at like, is this an all digital artist? Is this still old school artist? Is this still someone working in pencils and blue pencils? And, how are they inking this? And is this, a throwback to the traditional, lettering and, that kind of stuff, right? I think this is just enough of an exciting page by page art, because even if you looked at the panels, one page has 6 panels.
Yeah,
one
the
page has
paneling's
5,
like
one page has
he
a
changes
whole
it up
page.
all the time.
Yeah, it's constant, and you're constantly moving through. And if you just literally randomly open up to any page,
Right.
you're like, whoa. I mean, it is cool. It's cool. And we just applaud his work. It's a great story for anyone to just step away from the
typical
what
daily
you want.
story,
Yeah.
the daily comics or whatever, and just enjoy something new. It's an indie book without being an indie book as well.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So that is just a really fun read.
You want
And
something that's familiar, but you also want to explore out something outside the box.
I don't even know how many pages this is, but it's
Yeah.
if you're not careful, you'll read it in one day. And
Right.
so I would say let yourself breathe a little bit. Don't, Netflix binge the whole thing. And
It's easy.
And just
You restrain yourself.
take your time. Yeah. Now the back of this. So again, we are always talking about hardcover collected editions. So this is the hardcover collected black label Wonder Woman Dead Earth. And it's a great edition. The cover price on it is $29.99.
Yep.
But you can find it on In Stock Trades or other places for like $17, $18, something like that.
So on the back page of Dead Earth, it does say Daniel Warren Johnson is the Eisner Award nominated artist for The Extremity, Space Mullet, and Murder Falcon. Wonder Woman Dead Earth is his first project with DC Comics. And he also, great Midwest shout out, he lives in Chicago.
Well, I think they'll keep him around. I've only heard good things about this, so I would imagine that it did very well as far as sales and hopefully collected editions.
Right.
just as well,
I don't
too.
know if I would want to see him do an ongoing series, but I like minis.
Well, I think that if he can wrap himself around a certain story, then his artwork kind of follows with that.
Yeah.
Like I felt like the artwork was made for this story because it
You're
was
right.
just like off the wall, future Mad Maxy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And his artwork is like, yeah, that's the guy to do it.
Yeah.
Sure. So you have to kind of match him up with that.
It fits. Yeah.
It fits just great. And I'm glad to have it on my shelf. It's a great collected piece, and coloring is great. Just all around trying to find some awesome pieces for everyone out there. this is one of them. Put it on your shelf.
All right. This is Andrew Liner.
And Chris Ramos.
Signing off.
Goodbye.
Bonus episode.
This is Bam Pow Comic Hour with your hosts, Andrew Glonner
And Chris Ramos.
Tonight's episode, or bonus episode, depending where you are, we are doing starting the What If series. Now you may ask, what is the What If series?
What if?
What if asks that question? So we basically take a character. For this episode, the theme is Spider-Man. And we're giving them kind of a divergent from their origin or point on their story and seeing what could have happened. What if he made a different decision? What if somebody died instead? And the writers of these books like to explore that. And I find these stories so much fun because we know so much of their origin and a lot of their popular stories. So for us to take a left turn, if you want to call it that, and go on a different story or mission, I like to see where that goes and explore that writing space.
And I bet you all of the employees at Marvel like that too. You know, because I would imagine if you're going to write someone, then they would give you all these rules of this is how the character acts, and they're not going to break outside of this norm. And you know, most of the What If storylines, I think, came out in the 80s and were pretty popular right away because it was asking the questions that I think was on everyone's mind. You know, and I think if they did like a What If series of Harry Potter or like a What If series of the Hunger Games or something, it would be like super popular.
Yeah, I don't think it's done enough, but maybe people don't want to rehash something or do that. So I like that, you know, they're doing it. And I think they still continue to do it a little bit, not as often as they used to, but it's still a really interesting concept. And I think DC is starting to explore that too, as well, with their dark multiverse stories and all that.
Yeah. And this is called a Marvel one shot. And so that is literally one issue, and that's it. They're just going to do this story once. You got a few pages to read through. And that's why we're just doing a little bonus talk about it. What if Spider-Man versus Wolverine?
Yes. And this issue, What If Spider-Man versus Wolverine, is written by Jeff Parker and Paul Tobin. And then the artist is Clayton Henry. So this is, it's a very interesting concept. Wolverine versus Spider-Man, two very classic Marvel superheroes, or anti-hero in the case of Wolverine. And it presents it as Wolverine was always kind of, he was helping the government, but without directly helping them. They usually came to him. And so Spider-Man kind of gets roped into this adventure. And it definitely takes a left turn for sure.
Yeah, like Wolverine is always the character that he'll do whatever it takes. You know, his famous line is, what I do, what I do is very, I was trying to think here. I'm the best at what I do, but what I do isn't very nice.
Yes.
I did it. Okay. I had to rattle around my brain there a little bit. So for Wolverine, he was always the character that said, I'm just going to go get it done and don't ask me how, but I'm going to solve this situation and you're never going to hear from this person again. And this particular issue starts out with Spider-Man going with Wolverine. So now automatically you have good guy Superman, young teenage Superman. Why did I say Superman? You have good guy Spider-Man.
There's similar.
Going with Wolverine, you know, and they work differently, but you kind of wonder how are they going to work together?
Yes.
Or if at all.
Right. So they just kind of start off meeting each other, asking the question, what if? And they're like, okay, you know, well, let's go work together. They got to take down this mafia that's going on.
The Russian superheroes.
Yes,
the Russians.
Yeah, the Russians, you know, classic villain. classic Cold War villain, the Russians. And it really, it's like winter. I really like the environment that they're in. And Nick Fury, as like the story's going on, is like interrogating a guy that he was the pilot for them. And he's like, what actually went on? Well, he's kind of, telling us the story goes. And, Spider-Man, Wolverine are fighting these these superheroes that we're all not super familiar with. They all have different like superpowers and whatnot.
Yeah, and one of them is a giant Russian robot suit, and
right?
So you kind of get the
Dynamo.
Yeah.
Yep. Classic favorite.
You get the idea that it's sort of like an Iron Man thing, and so Spider-Man isn't really holding back. He's giving it pretty much all he can.
Right, because it's like fighting Iron Man, except he's a little bigger, so he's just pounding. So he's got to come up with some different solutions.
Yeah, and while he's pounding away at him, for some reason his armor powers down, and Spider-Man just hits him pretty hard, and you see a little pool of blood come out, and Spider-Man's like, "What happened?" And Wolverine says, "Well, his armor was powered down. Let's cry." So then you're like, okay.
Right.
It doesn't affect Wolverine at all.
No,
he's just
because
like,
he's used to it. That's a thing, just being messy and stuff. But, he gets the job done. Spider-Man, this is like one of his first, significant deaths, I guess.
In this storyline. Yeah, you
sure.
get the idea. And that's the other thing too. You can kind of forget all the history and all of the setup of Spider-Man when you read a What If.
Yes.
That they just take the characters, they sort of start them fresh. You never know what's going to change. You never know what's going to be part of his backstory or not. And
we still keep all the ideals of Spider-Man.
So you get the idea that Spider-Man, okay, he's doing good here.
Right.
And
he's all of a sudden, do the right thing, and then something goes wrong.
He just keeps helping Wolverine kill everyone on accident.
Yes. Yeah. So next page, Wolverine's just killed the other Russian villain that was with them, and it's like, oh, okay. And then so they just keep going to like save this girl that was captured. I think she was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and that they're working for at the time because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. And so the what if part clicks now where, okay, Spider-Man killed a few people. It wasn't his fault, but he still feels like he was part of it. And, now he has no choice but to sort of hang his head in shame a little bit and join this clandestine Assassin's Guild kind of thing.
Yes.
Like, okay, it's like, if I'm going to go in, I'm going to go all the way in. And now I may as well train to just stay as a bad guy, as a anti-hero.
Yes.
You can kind of ride that line that he's not all the way a bad guy, because what he wants to do now is give up his old life because he's gone over the point of no return.
Right. I think earlier in the issue, he's like, bye, Mary Jane. I'll see you after the mission gets over.
I'm really busy.
Okay. And then he just stays with S.H.I.E.L.D. and trying to take down the Russians and all the people that, kidnapped the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, the girl. And so he gets trained in the art of like assassinating and thinking with a different mindset. He even gets a new costume as well.
The cool part too is that they take his spider sense, and as they're training him, they realize that his spider sense was never utilized to its like full potential. Right. So then they're like, all right, as he was learning more of the the ways of an assassin or a spy or a double agent or whatever, they're like, his spider sense started taking on a mind of its own.
He could see more
into the future.
A little bit farther.
And like almost read people's body language to the point of he would know what they're doing before they even did it.
Right, which is pretty scary.
Yeah, that was cool.
Think about it. Like, if you're a bad guy trying to face that, you're just like, why do everything? Oh, okay.
It's like, you're going to throw a punch at me, so I'm going to get you before you even
think about it.
Think about it.
Right.
So, they kind of mentioned that in his past life as Spider-Man, that he was a child. Like, his powers were not developed to the point that they could be.
Right.
And, part of that too kind of goes on some pretty popular Spider-Man storylines where, like he's always holding back.
Yes.
Like he could punch through walls and then
Right.
somehow he's knocking out a bank robbery. And you're
Yeah.
like, why didn't you punch through that guy?
Mhm.
Well, it's because him being Peter Parker and him being Spider-Man, he's always holding back.
Yeah.
So in
Very
this comic,
seldomly you get to see the full potential of Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah. Only when he knows that you can take
Right.
it.
Even Black Widow was like, dude, you're not even the same person anymore. Like, who are you?
He's scaring Black Widow.
Yeah, like Black Widow's like doesn't even hold up. She can't really even fight him anymore because he's so well developed, and he's just like, oh, I got this.
And that's kind of the fun part of these What If comics is that, they're really, since they're single issue,
Mhm.
you have 15 pages or something
15,
like
20,
that.
yeah.
And they try to make every page count
Yes.
because it's just literally one issue and they're not going to have any kind of crossovers. It's not going
Mhm.
to carry on.
Right.
And they want to just say, you know what? This is the story and every panel is prime real estate.
Yes.
So they move the story along really fast.
Yeah, it's definitely very fast paced. But if it was any slower, I think it would be a little stale as well. So I like the progression of it.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it kind of progresses along of, Spider-Man
Yeah,
and Wolverine.
Spider-Man and Wolverine are the best of friends, and they do what they do best.
They are the group now, and they are like the Assassins Guild,
Right.
and it's just the two of them.
Yeah,
Like, it's-
and the pilot kind of hangs out with them. He's like the new mentor of both of them. The girl that he saved is like his new girlfriend. So and he kind of towards the end of the story we get to that it was a lot of setup. It was a big setup. The pilot was in on everything the whole time. So it was like, oh, okay.
the other funny thing that kind of popped up or thing to notice is that when Spider-Man's fighting, he's not constantly wisecracking. He's not telling jokes and things like that.
Yep.
Because even Wolverine mentions like, anything, kid? Like, you got any crack wise?
Yep.
Come on, I'm bored.
Yeah.
Amuse me. And
Mhm.
Spider-Man literally isn't saying anything.
Yeah.
So you can kind of almost think that they took away some of his, humanity because that was
Yeah.
just like part of him. It
Yeah.
was like part of him to just be goofy and
A little carefree.
Yeah, he does that to kind of confuse his enemies a little bit. He does
Yeah.
it to sort of
Rile 'em
take
up,
their guard down,
right, yeah.
make them fight angry. But
Mhm.
when he is going for a kill
Yeah.
hit, a kill shot every time, he's not saying literally he's not saying anything. They have no dialogue from him.
Yeah. Very serious, And I really, when we get to the end of the story, I liked that he wrote that letter to Mary Jane. That was a nice touch.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't have to do that, but they were like, oh, we should probably include this. And so he kind of writes to Mary Jane. He's like, I'm really sorry. I'm really torn up about how things ended, but this is my new life now. And I don't see myself leaving it either.
Yeah. And then they said, it ends with, they went to cut the Black Ops world down to size and make the world a hell of a lot safer.
Right.
So it's like,
he feels like
okay.
he's making a real difference versus a nonstop reoccurring thing.
Right. And it was like, all right, that's how the story wraps up, is like these adventures are continuing in this world, in this time frame.
Yeah.
That is the what if.
The what if.
The what if
The
part.
what if Spider-Man became an assassin.
Spider-Man says, that's my
Right.
job now.
That was the only thing that I will gripe about this book is they sell it as Spider-Man versus Wolverine,
yeah, I
but
know.
it's not. He's like, with Wolverine,
I think
but it
like,
won't be very compelling to
the
sell
first
it.
page was like, hey, Wolverine, I'm not going to do what you want. And then they just quickly got over that.
Right.
But that's not the first time they've oversold a cover to get you to buy the issue. Right?
Exactly. Yep.
That's the old trick.
Right. The art's really good. It's modernized, but it definitely works and serves the story very well. I like the redesign of Spider-Man's costume. That was really cool. It's definitely more toned down,
Mhm.
but you don't see it like escaping any norms.
Yeah. Any kind of,
It's like a nice hybrid of the original red costume and the black costume.
yeah, he still have his web shooters and things. And, so this is just a great example of a what if issue. And it's just a little bonus single issue discussion. So, while we are always looking to promote collected editions, don't forget that there is a big history of What If comics out there, and even just regular issues that you can just jump in, learn about a character, and jump back out. You don't always have to stop everything you're doing. This came out in 2007. So,
yeah,
pretty recent. Quite some time ago, maybe. All right.